Devil May Cry as a series has a little bit of an awkward position. It was a series loved by so many people and notorious for being incredibly challenging and difficult, but then Capcom decides to ruin everything. At first, Capcom was fine with Ninja Theory rebooting the entire thing to the displeasure of pretty much every Devil May Cry fan on planet Earth. One of the people who were outraged by this prospect was my little brother, who is pretty much a die-hard Devil May Cry fan. But then he actually played DMC Devil May Cry, or as you like to call it, DMC Squared, and he found the game to be just alright. The story was garbage for certain, but the gameplay is fun and there is some creativity in it. According to him, the gameplay is significantly easier compared to Devil May Cry 4, and Devil May Cry 4 is already pretty easy, but still pretty fun. It's just that he doesn't like the fact that the series has to end with a surprisingly alright but not necessary reboot that just dumps on the original. He thought there will be no such thing as Devil May Cry 5, but well, he thought wrong. Fast forward to 2019 and Capcom is on a roll these days with Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and now Devil May Cry 5, reviving the original franchises that people love and bringing them into the modern times. So can Capcom finally score a jackpot with the revival of the beloved series Devil May Cry 5? Welcome to appabendyt's Uncapped. Please don't bang the devil trigger. Today's review is going to be on Capcom's brand new game Devil May Cry 5, which came out just a couple of days ago, and I beat the game as soon as I got it. Before we get to the actual review, I want to say thank you so much for liking or sharing my videos, subscribing or following me on social media, and most importantly, sponsoring this channel through many means like Patreon, PayPal, etc. You can check them out, links down below. So what's the story? Well, a mysterious man named V comes to the Devil May Cry demon hunting agency to ask Dante and his friends for help in regards to a new and powerful demon named Urizen invading a peaceful town. At the same time, V also asks Nero, who also have his own demon hunting agency with the same name, to fight the demon in question. Nero himself got a personal beef with the demon because he thinks that the demon took his devil arm away. However, as Nero arrives in the enemy's headquarters, he finds out that Dante and his friends got his ass kicked, and V forces Nero to back away from a fight that they'll most certainly cannot win. Nero comes back a month later with a brand new robotic arm made by Nico, the daughter of that stuttering mad scientist from Devil May Cry 4. So can Nero save Dante and the rest of his team and put an end to the demonic invasion once and for all? I really enjoyed the story of the game. The story doesn't really add anything new to the series, but it is entertaining all around. First off, the Devil May Cry games are known to have characters who are badasses and being on the top of things, so it's refreshing to see them getting their ass kicked for once and being desperate for life early on. It just serves as an interesting contrast to establish that they are dealing with something quite powerful here, and they are human too. All of the characters are very likable. They're funny, charming, witty, but they're also very much human who know how to show compassion and understanding. I love the interactions between the characters. They're very entertaining, and the clashing personalities between them really help to create an excellent dynamic. That being said, I really do want to see more interactions. Most importantly, I want to see more interactions between Nero and Dante. If you can't tell by his appearance, Dante has really shown his age, and it's time for the Devil Hunter torch to be handed to someone else, and that is Nero. I really wish that this particular relationship is explored more in the plot. Another issue that I have with the plot is that Lady and Trish are merely there because they're there. While it is nice to see them hunting demons and everything, I kind of feel like their inclusion could be for something more major, but they're really not in the game. They are major characters in the games that they were previously in, but not so much here. They're just there as fan service, and I also mean that very literally, by the way. Also, something really odd that I find in this game is that the convenient god rays are coming in to censor the butts on the PS4 version of the game, specifically Trish's butt. The PC version does have Trish's butt uncensored, but all platforms have Lady's butt censored, even if you turn off the lens flares. Maybe those aren't actually lens flares. Maybe Lady's butt is just so good that it radiates holy light. So if you're planning to get this game and want to see dumb lady butts, do not touch the PS4 version. Get the PC version and hope that the nude mods are coming in, because they sure did for Resident Evil 2. Why censor the butts in the first place, Capcom? It's a mature rated game where you slice the living hell out of demons, and Nero does this as his ultimate move, which is shockingly reminiscent of DMC.
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you! Fuck you!
I also have an issue with the plot being rather predictable. There's a twist involving the character V and his real identity. I did make guesses on who he really is, and let's just say that I ended up being half right. I also guessed the person who stole Nero's arm correctly. The main villain's identity is also easy to guess, and it also explains why Dante got his ass kicked. If you're a fan of the series, you might think that there's something new to the plot, but there really isn't. But still, those are just mere nitpicks that don't really detract to the overall story experience, which is fantastic. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the story, it's intense, it's exciting, I want to know what's going on next. I played this game throughout an entire day, that's how intrigued I am with the story. I'm a little disappointed that we learned nothing new, but it's an intriguing story nonetheless. And now let's talk about the actual meat of the game, which is the gameplay. There are 3 characters in the game, some of which are very aptly titled. You get to use Nero, of course, the new main character of the Devil May Cry series, who will be holding the protagonist's torch after Dante retires. You got the mysterious man V, and of course, you got Dante. These 3 characters offer radically different playstyles, some of which are more satisfying than others. Nero is pretty simple and satisfying. While his robotic arm has many different abilities, you're still able to grab enemies from far away and juggle the living hell out of them. The robot arms, or as the game likes to call it, the Devil Breaker, come in many different varieties, each with different abilities and usefulness in the battlefield. You can pick a mix so that it fits within your gameplay style. That being said, you cannot switch to them unless you destroy the last one that you use, so keep that in mind. V's gameplay is pretty different. You're essentially summoning familiars and they'll be the ones doing the combos for you. Pressing the X button will summon the Griffin, which is a bird for range attacks, and the Y will summon Shadow, which is Panther for the close range attacks. Both of these creatures work just like that Guardian Shadow Panther from the first Devil May Cry. I guess you can say that they're very familiar. Okay, my bad. Dante's gameplay is pretty complex. You still have the basic gun and melee combo. You can switch between many different types of guns, and each will offer different gameplay benefits. But that's not all. You have 4 different stances, one for swords, one for guns, one for agility, and one for defense. You can still use all your weapons and normal X and Y combos just fine, but switching between one stance after the other will affect what happens if you press the B button. I pretty much really love all the gameplay modes. I personally find V a bit too easy for my liking, and Dante takes quite some time to practice, but man, once you master the hot swapping and learning the best of the best juggle combos you can pull off with the weapons and the stances that you got, playing as Dante is ridiculously satisfying, especially with the motorcycle that converts into dual chainsaws. Thankfully, the game offers a really damn good tutorial mode that lets you to practice with the many types of enemies that are in the game. It's a really damn good feature, and I appreciate the game for having it. Devil May Cry is pretty damn notorious for the difficulty, so of course people are expecting something challenging for this game. Thankfully, you do get the challenge here, as playing on the Devil Hunter difficulty will get you some serious ass whooping. I'm not really that good on the game, which is why I find it surprising that I got straight A's or more in a good portion of the chapter. I find the game's rating system a bit weird. The game seemingly doesn't rate you based on the damage that you receive now, which means that you can take all the damage you can get, including from bosses, and still get a good rating. During a boss fight using Dante, I lost quite a lot of health and nearly got my ass kicked, but I somehow managed to get by on the first try with no continues and an S rating. That's very generous of you, game. It wasn't exactly a good performance with that boss, but at least I tried. And speaking of boss, oh boy, the boss at level 19 out of 20 is pretty damn tough. It's unfortunately spoiler territory for me to tell you who it is, but man, it is a really damn tough boss. It actually took me many retries, and my right hand has never been this trained since Cuphead, and I still get a C in the end. Yeah, screw you, game. Screw you and your ratings. I beat this boss, and that's all I need. The rest of the bosses are adequately challenging, and I do like their designs and their variety. Some of the bosses are straight out of the previous Devil May Cry games. In fact, a lot of the elements in Devil May Cry 5 are straight out of the previous games too. I'm not talking about the protagonists, I'm kind of expecting them to be there, just a lot of the elements that make you go, oh wow, I'm playing the old Devil May Cry games again, which can be a good thing for some people. Also, another huge plus on the gameplay department, the way the game's levels were designed reminds me so much of Doom 2016 in that it's a hell of a lot more straightforward compared to the previous games, especially Devil May Cry 4. No more ridiculous puzzles, dumb platforming challenges, and freaking dice games, just basic key hunting mechanics, secrets to find around the area, and demons to slay. Nothing more, nothing less, just exactly how I wanted it. I'm playing this game on a GTX 1050 laptop, and while I was able to run this game at a relatively consistent 60 FPS on 768p high settings, the cutscene lag of this game is atrocious. It actually really hampers the enjoyment as the cutscenes lag the game for a bit, and it actually desyncs with the voice and the sound. For the record, I'm loading this game on an SSD, and it somehow still lags. lags. Thankfully, there's a fix for this, and that fix is to switch the game's default rendering API DirectX 12 into an infinitely better API DirectX 11. Just pro tip to anyone who plays PC games, especially those who are in lower end hardwares, never choose DirectX 12, it's terrible. Also, grab yourself a controller for this game, just don't try playing this game with a mouse and keyboard. I mean, you can try, but it's not exactly an ideal experience. Overall, Devil May Cry 5 is pretty good, and I don't really have too much to complain about the game other than a couple of nitpicks here and there. It's a challenging game with a legitimately gripping story that isn't really anything new for the series, but it does a great job at making people to be interested with the series overall. Great gameplay, great soundtrack, intriguing story. It's definitely one of the best games that I played this year. Is this game worth $60? Actually, yeah, I finished this game in around 11 hours in a single day. I've had a lot of fun with this game and I cannot wait for what's going to come out next. There are some extra modes including a secret ending. There will also be DLCs coming out. It's a must buy if you have the money. But if you don't have the money and you're waiting for the game to get a discount, man, any discount 10% or above on this game is a great deal. So grab this game while you can and enjoy being the Devil Hunter once again. Good job, Capcom. Now please don't give other people reboots.